teacher.
Welcome to the Hogwarts School of PhilosocratarapTROLLogy. I'm Socrates, and it's so nice that all you prospective students decide to come for a tour of this magnificent school, where you can learn as much philosophy as you could possibly want, and then much, much more. So first, why don't you all tell me who you are?
Hi, I'm Indian. Hi, I'm Christian.
I'm Jewish.
Ni hao, I'm Chinese.
Those are rather lackluster introductions. If you choose to come to this school, by the end of your 4 years, you'll be able to answer that question with a detailed analysis of the essence of all objects similar to you and their shared qualities according to Aristotle's theory of objects striving for perfection. But more on that later. Let's concentrate on the tour at hand now. I'll introduce you to the teachers, and they'll tell you a bit about themselves and the courses they teach. The first teacher you'll meet is Plato. Explain.
Greetings, prospective students. I'm Plato, one of the most esteemed philosophers of ancient Greece and a student of Socrates himself. But really, I am much cooler than Socrates in every possible way. Oh my god.
No.
Yeah. In fact, I used to have my own school called the Academy. And trust me, it was hardcore philosophy, legit.
It was so hardcore that he left his own school to come teach at mine, the Hogwarts School of PhilosocratarapTROLLogy, which is, in my humble opinion, the best school in the history of the ancient world.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, I'm here to give you a sample of the classes that I teach. Under me, you can learn anything from dialectics, ethics, and even physics. Now, I wrote a very famous Socratic dialogue.
Yes, what's a Socratic dialogue?
A Socratic dialogue is a story where characters talk about moral and philosophical problems. It's actually a version of the Socratic method, which is when you ask questions to tick people off to get to the truth. Anyway, I wrote such a famous dialogue. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's called, dramatic pause, Meno.
No.
I never heard of it. What? Got nothing.
Getting flustered. Well, it's really famous, okay? It's even on the Athens Times bestseller list. Come on, I also wrote a really famous story called The Allegory of the Cave.
I think I've heard it. No.
It's an allegory about a cave. Come on, guys.
That's a lie. Creative name.
Okay, your name Christian, kid. That's not creative either. Anyway, my dialogue, Meno, is about this dude, Meno, who wants to define virtue. Socrates and Meno had this whole discussion about whether virtue can be taught, and whether all human beings have it, and whether it's just one quality or a lot of qualities. In the dialogue, there are many different themes, like the idea of anamnesis, which is the thought of that some knowledge is innate and can be recollected from the soul through inquiry. Socrates asks Meno many questions and points out flaws in his logic, but by the end of the dialogue, they don't at any point actually come up with a satisfactory definition of virtue. And Meno gives up at the end and calls Socrates a torpedo fish.
What is this? I'm not a torpedo fish.
Well, anyway, the allegory of the cave is an allegory that appeared in my work, The Republic. Suppose there's a group of people who live chained to a cave, facing a blank wall. There's a fire behind them, and there are objects passing in front of the fire that project shadows on the wall. The people start to give forms to these shadows, which is as close as the prisoners will get to viewing reality. A philosopher is a prisoner who is free from this cave, and then understands that the shadows don't make up reality at all, since he can now see the true form of reality rather than the simple shadows of the wall.
That's deep.
Yeah, well, that's a sampling of the sorts of things you'll learn from me. And now, I'll introduce you to Aristotle.
Hi everyone, I'm Aristotle, another major philosopher of ancient Greece, and I'm even cooler than Plato.
Sure, yeah, right.
You're the Chinese kid now.
Oh, right.
I teach classes on both general philosophy and logic, so I'm going to tell you about both those things. First up is logic. I had the earliest formal study of logic that you modern people have, and let me tell you, it was a highly developed logical theory according to Wikipedia.
Did they discover that your theory is, completely limited?
No.
Well, I'm pretty sure they did. I think I read a news article about it.
Yeah, well, I think you should go jump in a lake, that's what I think.
Okay, fine.
So my theory of logic revolves around one basic thing, the syllogism. This is speech where certain things have been assumed, called premises, and then you say something else at the end that must be true, those assumptions are true, called a conclusion. If you take my class on logic, you'll learn a lot more than that. You'll learn, for instance, that there exists backwards Z's, and for all A's are upside down.
Wait a second. What does that even mean?
Didn't I tell you to go jump in a lake?
Again? Same thing.
Now, the second thing I'll tell you about is my theory of perfection. I believe that all individual objects are always moving towards perfection. I make my students collect as many objects as they can, and since each object is doing its best to reach perfection, by studying all these objects, you can see what they have in common, and thus figure out what is ideal. This method allows you to study the parts and understand the whole. One of my students, for instance, looked at all the constitutions of the different Greek city-states, and then studied those to determine the ideal constitution.
Oh, does that mean if you take all Chinese kids like me and study us all, you'll figure out the ideal Chinese kid?
Sure, now go back to your lake.
Hello everyone, I'm Zeno, the founder of the Stoic School of Philosophy, which I teach right here in Athens.
What's Stoicism?
What a great question, Christian kid. Stoicism is the kind of philosophy with a lot of emphasis on goodness, and peace of mind, gained from living a virtuous life, following the rules of nature. If I may say so myself, it caught on pretty quickly and was quite popular.
So what exactly does Stoicism involve?
Well, I divided Stoicism into logic, physics, and ethics. Logic includes things like rhetoric, grammar, and theories about perception and thought. Physics isn't just science, but also the nature of the universe, and ethics is where the end goal is to get happiness by living correctly. We Stoics believe that destructive emotions come from errors in judgment. There are certain people called sages who have moral and intellectual perfection. They would never feel these destructive emotions.
Wait, so does that mean we can become sages?
If you choose to take my elective, Becoming a Sage 101, learn all about that. But I've rambled on long enough. It's time for you all to move on to the next philosopher, Epicurus.
I'm Epicurus, founder of Epicureanism. Be epic. My philosophy is unique because I believe that the purpose of philosophy is to achieve a happy, content life with peace and freedom from fear, the absence of pain, and self-sufficiency while surrounded by the good company of friends.
Well, that sounds pretty nice.
It is. In my class, I teach students about Epicureanism. For instance, I believe that pain and pleasure are measures of good and evil, that the death is the end of the human body, and the soul, and thus shouldn't be feared, that the gods don't reward or punish humans, that the universe is infinite and eternal, and that events in this world are ultimately based on the motions and interactions of atoms moving around in empty space.
That seems a bit complicated.
It is very complicated, but the important thing to remember is that attaining maximum pleasure should be the beginning point of any choice you make.
So you believe that you should just go forever what feels the greatest? That sounds kind of stupid.
Some modern people misinterpret my philosophy and think that I just want for people to go for base sensual pleasure, but that's not true. What I'm saying is that this is all part of my broader thinking that emphasizes the importance of the senses when confirming truth, rather than just relying on intellect. How you feel is just as important as how you think. Now off you go to the next stop on the tour, Socrates.